Greetings, everyone. It is the 19th of March, and this is the People-Centered Internet Community Call. I'm delighted that you could be with us. Adonai Vera is with us. I had to think for a second about the proper pronunciation. He told me how to pronounce his name, and I got it right. So Adonai, we are very happy to have you with us and to introduce Adonai is our own Schneider Alfonso, and Schneider has some remarks for us, and he has an introduction. So please, Schneider, the call is yours.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you here. So before actually doing the introduction for Adonai, I have an announcement from the PCI operations side, right? And it is that we know that you are very engaged and that many people in the community is very, very engaged. So in the upcoming newsletter that will be released, the March newsletter, the PCI newsletter that will be released next week, we will send you a survey that we really invite you to fill out, to check it out, and it's regarding how we can make the engagement of the community easier, faster, and better for everyone. So we are thinking on options like not only managing forums on email, but actually using apps like Slack or others. So the invitation is please check it out in the upcoming newsletter at the end of the next week, and then you can just give us and share your opinions in there. Okay, so that's let's say the announcement, and with the announcement, let's move to the most interesting part or the most important part of today's call, that is actually knowing or getting to know a bit more about Adonai. So Adonaí Vera is a machine learning engineer with 5 years of experience in the creation of computer visions, models, machine learning algorithms, testing and deployment models in production. He has been a software developer, AI leader, and CTO in different companies, which has given him a vision of creating AI products with customer focus. He's a world citizen because he has lived in many places, and one of the 10 TensorFlow certified developers for Google in Colombia, author of courses in platforms like Platzi, and winner of the hackathon Covid19 and Innovate2019 with Ecopetrol Colombia, which is the petrol company in the country, right? And the title of his topic is Unlocking the Power of Decentralized AI, Empowering the World. The super talented Adonai with all of you. Adonai, the mic is yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Snei. Let me share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. First of all, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Snei, for inviting me to this talk. I decided to make something special today. I decided to tell you some of the ideas or projects that I have and I would like to make, because I believe that artificial intelligence has to be for everyone. AI is for everyone, and we have to find ways to do that. That's why today I decided to create like a journey. We are going to go from about me. We are going to why democratize AI, some of the challenges, how, example, and at the end, we are going to talk about some remarks. You can write any question in the chat. The main idea is like have a conversation, and we're going to show you some of these things. I think Snei did an amazing job talking about me, but to summarize, I have been working in several companies, but in the same time, I have been working in social projects as ISEC. That was when I met Snei, and another company is open source as TensorFlow or Hugging Face, that is more about artificial intelligence. But the important thing here is that these two different perspectives, like work in a company and work in social projects or open source projects, give me the ability to see in how we can create technology, but in the same time contribute with a positive impact around the world. And that is something that I would like to tell you today. But to start, I would like to tell you a story. Why I think artificial intelligence is so important. And maybe you know this kind of algorithms, but in the left, you can see my father. He was, I think, 6 or 7 years old. Right now, he's 74. But for me, it was so hard to try to think how was him when he was 7 years old. And the only thing that I have from him was a picture, an old picture. And yeah, it was something like an old picture, and that was everything. But suddenly an artificial intelligence, they can take the image as an input and create the output that is a video. This video is using GAN. It's a neural network, generative adversarial neural network. And the amazing thing here is that we can like create live from a picture. I know that right now we have many other applications, but that was something that I say, oh my God, with this technology, we can create actually many things around the world, and we can use this technology for good things. And I changed my purpose, and I decided to make it more, how can I create technology that is easy to use, accessible, and with good quality for anybody. Like try to make artificial intelligence to whatever person. Doesn't matter if have money or not have money, if it's technical or if it's not technical, how we can use this technology and show it and implement it in different places. Okay, we are gonna start. I think it's important to know what is artificial intelligence. I know I already listened some of the people that are here, and I know that know about, example, GPT-4 and another kind of AI, but I like this definition of artificial intelligence. It was from John McCarthy. He was one of the most important person, because he was the first one that introduced the name artificial intelligence too much years ago. And he said that is the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, especially intelligent computing programs. And I believe, and I gonna like complement this with some definition that Alan Turing said, that is how we can make like a machine work similar or replicate the behavior of a human. How we can create a machine that can see, can listen, can like process information, and at the end give us an input. And I know that is so hard to try to understand, because this sounds like an ideal introduction, but I'm gonna show you some examples. And with these examples, I'm gonna explain you why I think artificial intelligence is so important to make it for everybody. And the first example that I would like to tell you, it's about a digital store. This digital store, just think like a, I don't know, whatever store that sell products in internet. You go to internet, you buy shoes, clothes, food, books, whatever you want. Something that this digital store find is that if they start to get data for the customer, they can find patterns in that data, and then with this pattern, they can create better recommendation system. Just thinking in a small store, which you have a physical store in maybe a neighborhood or something close to you, and you see that everybody, or sometimes there are people that are coming and I'm buying vegetable, and then there are people that are buying another products, I don't know, maybe rice or books, and you start to find that these people have some things in common. And you say, okay, it's like a group of people. I can clusterize, and I can say this group of people have a similar like behaviors, and with that I can create a system that can give us the product that they are looking for. And I am talking about the thing that they buy, the thing that the user like, watch, and dislike. We get all of this data and we create a model. If I try to do it with one person, 10 people, 20 people, it's gonna be easy. But when we are talking about more than 1 million people going through my site and getting information, it's gonna be so hard. And this is one application of AI. And this is one example of how AI works. And they use all of this data, all the things, the way that they buy, the products that they buy, all of this data, and then they clusterize that information, create like a small cluster with some patterns, and create a system that can recommend that information, that products. And I would like to tell you a more specific example. This is Amazon. Amazon is one of the biggest companies around the world, and in just this product, that is the recommendation system, they sell, in addition, during the holiday season, more than $1 billion. And that's mean the 35 of the revenue that they have. And it's crazy because this system is generating a lot of money. But the important thing here is that Amazon has the best or has a very good developers around the world. What happened, the smallest stores? Maybe a store that doesn't have the money to pay a developer, or maybe doesn't have the resource to train an algorithm, that doesn't have these opportunities, they can't access to these kind of services. And that's something that I think we should work that make AI for everybody. Another example, and this is more, I'm gonna give you like 4 or 5 examples just to try to explain more detail artificial intelligence. But in this example, it's about a physical store. In the last one, we talk about a digital store. Right now, it's a physical store. And this physical store, it's trying to get information about the customer, like how many people enter to the store, maybe which product they like, how they react when they take the product, what is the behavior of the people, how they move to the physical store. But this is so hard because if you want to do that, you have to put a person, you have to hire a person that stay in front of the physical store and start to say, okay, one person entry at this time, and this is not going to be the best way to do it. Then you can use artificial intelligence. In this specific case, we are using the ability to see. We are integrating artificial intelligence algorithm to detect people, to create heat maps, to maybe say if it's a man or if it's a woman, maybe say how old is that person. And all of this data can be like a resource or can be a metrics for the physical store. And that was something that we developed a couple of years ago. Right now, there are too much models doing the same, but it's an application of AI. And the last 2 examples, it's about like companies, like big companies. But if we think how the people, like the normal people can use artificial intelligence, there is like 100 of examples. And this is an example of Alejandra. Alejandra, it's blind, she can't see. And as Alejandra, there are more than 39 million people. This is 2021 that has like this, that can't see. And it's so hard to move to many places if you don't have the ability to see what is next to you. But then an artificial intelligence create a system, that was Microsoft, create a system that can, using a lens, they can tell you which person is in front of you, is in your left or is in your right, what are next to you, maybe the objects. And it's
We lose audio.
Yeah, I think he's having a technical thing, but he's figured it out now. We cannot hear you. No, we can hear you. We can't hear you.
He might need to stop sharing and restart sharing with the volume option.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. Okay. Yes, this is a story of a person, a kid that now can see, and it's like if you have the ability to give superpowers to anybody. Like this boy maybe doesn't have the ability to share experience because he can like see the people that are next to him, but now we can give that superpower to see the people that are next to him. And I'm gonna tell you 2 stories more, but with different perspective. This is about a kid. Just think that you have a son, you have a boy, maybe 4 or 5 years, and something happened and you lose him. Like you was in a mall, you were in a mall, and then he disappears. And then you try to hire all the people, you told with the police, you told with all the people, and they are trying to find that person. And it's hard because the world is very big. But what happens, if we make an algorithm that can use his pictures, and we can put this algorithm in the security cameras, and we can make that all the cameras in all the places start to try to find this boy. That's gonna make that we can find it in an easy way. I am not gonna talk about privacy because I know that here is a big topic. I am just gonna say some of the challenges, but the important things here is how we can use AI, and in the same time, why it's so important to democratize AI to make this kind of application accessible for everybody. And this is another thing. And I think, like I said before, it's like give superpower to the humanity. This is New Delhi, and it's about air quality. And there is many, let's say, places where you can find sensors, and that sensor is collecting data about the quality of the air quality. But of course, it's hard if you are like 2 kilometers far to that place where they are collecting data. But two university students decided to create a system where you can take your phone, you can just take a picture, and with that picture, it's gonna tell you in like an average what is the air quality in that specific place. Like you are creating sensors to put it in everywhere. Like you can make that you know the air quality doesn't matter if you are far or close to the sensor data. And the interesting thing here is that this was developed for two students. Like it wasn't a company, it was a student that find the problem because they was living the problem, and then they use artificial intelligence because it was accessible, and they create this algorithm. And this is a similar example that was with floods. And the interesting thing here is that they use data. They use data about how the river move, and they create like some prediction and create multiple simulations on how it's gonna move the water. And then with this data, they can know maybe which place are in dangerous, which place should move to another place. And we are going to save many lives with these kind of algorithms. That's why I think this has to be for everybody. Like whatever person can create this model if we make AI easy to use. You don't have to be technical to do this kind of application, and you have to have an idea and like leave the problem. And the last example, it's two boys. Actually, they are in high school. They were in high school at that moment, and they create a system that can detect or predict wildfires. And they take a picture, they show the plants, and they say, okay, this is a probability that maybe it's gonna be a wildfire, and can help with that. And I'm gonna summarize these examples with three things. The first one is that if we make AI accessible with low cost, we can give superpowers to everybody. Each person has a different situation. I am right now in Colombia, but maybe there is another person that are in another city that are living different problems. But if we give them tools, they can create models and apply them for the real situation that they are living. And this is not just for big companies. It's how we can make this artificial intelligence that everyone can use it. Now I'm going to talk about some of the challenges, and at the end, like I say, we can discuss. I am really happy to be here because for me it's like an opportunity to show another perspective, like a young developer. But yeah, some of the challenges are the privacy. Like I said before, we are collecting data, but this data, it's personal data. How we can deal with like trying to don't go to personal data, but in the same time use this kind of model that can help to security steps or security process. The other thing is AI is expensive. And when I say expensive, is because if you want to train a model, you are going to need a good computer, or you are going to need a good server, or you are going to need a tool to train this model. How we can make that AI, it's super cheap, that everyone can use it in his own computer, or if they don't have computer, how we can make that they can create a model in another way. Yes, of course, there are educational and training things. We have to keep training the people, make it easier, but in the same time, we have to keep educating the communities, accessibility, and the ethical consideration to avoid like we have to be careful with this, because if you can see GPT-4 is an amazing example. It's a technology that OpenAI just put it, like just show it to the people, and the people are starting to create amazing things with that. But if you can see here, there are many things that you can do that. And actually the amazing thing here is that you can create whatever you want. Like the new projects that the people are creating, it's because they are living a problem and they see that GPT-4 can help to solve that problem. And we have to be careful because good things can be created, but at the same time, bad things the people can create using the same idea of the technology. And the last one, data bias, and I would like to give an example. Just think that you create a model using historical data that maybe has some bias. Let's say, and this is a real example, I am not gonna go really in details, but we create a system that can detect, that can predict when a person that make a bad thing, let's say they steal a store, we can predict the probability that that person steal another store in the future. And that sounds really good because we can use this model and try to avoid possible risks in the future. But what happens if I train a model using historical data of, I don't know, maybe with some bias, maybe I use data from a country where the number of women that still are very less, or maybe there are more black men than white men, or maybe there is another kind of metrics. All of this information is going to create a bias in the model. And that bias, we have to be careful. Because if we don't control that bias, we are going to create a model, and it's not the fault of the model. It's the fault of the developer that create the model. But we are going to create a model that can like affect people just for some future and not for the real situation. Now I'm going to jump with some of the how. Like we are, I know that there are some developers. I know that there are no technical people in the same time. I know that there maybe are people that work in public companies, private company. I just try to create 4 perspectives of how you can start to contribute to decentralize and to make AI accessible. And the first one is about public and private company. And we talk about invest in AI research. And when I say invest in AI research, I am saying that you don't have to put all the money to research in AI, but you can start to work in small projects, and you can make like a small group of team in your company or in the company that you work that is still looking every day for new opportunities, that how they can use AI to improve the process that you have right now. And one example is the Alan Turing Institute in UK, that they are like fundraising and they are creating things with AI for help the communities. The other thing is how we can promote AI education, how we can make that our, let's say, developers or all the people in the company can start to get skills in AI. There are many free courses. I'm going to show some of them at the end that you can take. It's important to like say the guidelines of the ethical things, because if you don't create the guidelines, the ethical guidelines from the beginning, at the future, you are going to see that everything is going to be like crazy. We have to establish, we have to say for now, what is the ethical guideline that we are going to use. And right now there is some guideline that you can use as a base, and you can like change it, depends of your industry. And the last one that I want to say is a culture of innovation. And when I say culture, it's like the first question that when I was in the meeting, someone asked about GPT-4 and how they can how we can create a fake face. I have some Google Colab code that I'm gonna share at the end. But this kind of innovation every day and make this like a culture of a company, it's gonna make the change. It's gonna make the difference. Always try to see how we can create or how we can solve problems and how we can innovate in artificial intelligence. But now, if you are a developer, as me, there are other things that you can do. You can work in open source project. TensorFlow, for example, it's a really big open source project, but there are more. There are PyTorch, Sklearn, Keras. There are communities that you can just contribute and be part of this change. If we want to make this technology easy to use, we have to create tools that all the people can use, but we have to be part of this open source project to create this kind of technologies. Another thing, and I have to say the truth, as a developer, always we think how we can make this thing work and know how the user can use this system. And at the beginning, we were talking about Zoom and how it's so hard to make payments in that platform. And the thing here is how we can make user-friendly AI application, where whatever can take and can go and can make all the process without feeling very good, like without any technical stuff or something easy to use. And yeah, the other three, it's similar to the other ones, but I would like to say the AI hackathons. A hackathons, it's like you meet with some people, you start to working in the same project in a specific period of time. Just think that you meet with 20 developers and you start to create an algorithm that can help a specific problem in 24 hours, 48 hours. And the main idea here is how we can create a solution. But the good thing here is that we can make networking and we can meet more people and we can contribute together in a specific project. And I'm almost finished with that, but I would like to say a not technical perspective. And one of the most important things for me is that artificial intelligence, for me, it's like 20-30% develop like code, like write code, and 70% actually the expert that understand the problem. And if we see that, we are going to see that we can contribute to many open source projects without being like a technical person. Like you as an expert, as a person that are working in the same, that know the problem, you can contribute more in that specific project. That's why I recommend to start joining some open source AI projects and contribute in that specific project, have discussions. When Snake told me about this, that you meet every 15 days and you start to work into different projects and talking about different projects. I think this is amazing because you create like a conversation about some important things, and that is like the first step if we want to make the change. This is some of the tools that I use daily. GPT-4, I love it. It's very interesting because there are many applications, but the thing is know how we can use GPT-4 to solve whatever problem. It's better have the problem and then think if GPT-4 maybe can contribute to that problem. And the company that are gonna growing and they're gonna, I think, that are gonna growing really fast is company that actually find a problem, a real problem, and use GPT-4 to solve it, but not the company that use GPT-4 trying to find or to solve whatever problem that they think they are in the ecosystem. Other good thing, Grammarly, for me, it's amazing because I don't speak English. I am like my native language is Spanish, and Grammarly helped me to create a better, let's say, write better. And they use AI to create this system. They use NLP, natural language processing. Timely, a good tool. Asana as well. They help you to time management team. Notion have a new functionality that is Notion AI. You can summarize many things using just this tool. You create all the documents and you just can click and say summarize, and it's similar how they are using GPT in some ways, and it's very interesting if you already use Notion. Canva, that is like so famous, but now they have Canva AI where you can say you can create or you can generate an image without make any design. You have to say, I would like, for example, make a birthday letter with this information, and they create like a synthetic or a generated image with that information. And this one that is CO, it's Collab. And why I like Collab? Because if you don't have a computer, if you don't have the resources, you can use Google Colab. They give you a GPU that is something that makes faster, let's say, matrix multiplications. And it's like the first version is cheap. You can create things using these tools. And I think that's very important. I'm going to finish with 3 examples of people that are contributing to like make this technology accessible. One of the first one is Hugging Face. Hugging Face is like a thing like a marketplace, but you don't sell like a marketplace where you can put models that are already trained and everyone can use it. for free. Like can download, can test it, can show the result, can maybe apply in the specific situation. In the same time, they can upload data sets. If you have, for example, if you are creating a model to detect anomaly in plants, you can upload your database, your data set here, and you can share the data set for the people that are working in the same project. And Hugging Face, it's working with many other projects trying to make accessible AI. This is another one that is data robot. It's very interesting because you can upload the data as was in the picture, a CSV file, and you can start to create prediction model without write a line of code. And this is important. You don't have to write a line of code, and you start to get metrics about the data that you have. If we make these technologies to maybe a physical store that are trying to create prediction of the sales, they can make a model without know anything about code. This is another one, Data IQ. It's something similar, and we have the last one that is machine learning for kids. And the funny thing here, if you have children, you can show this platform, and they can start to learn about artificial intelligence concepts without write code, but trying to merge different blocks and create models using that data. And some other open source tools that you can use. And yeah, to finish that, I would like to say, where do I start? Like, we talk about some of the reason why I am working on this, some of the challenges, some of the application. We know a little bit more about application with AI, but now where do I start? And the first step is be part of the community. Be part of TensorFlow communities, be part of PyTorch community, be part of AI for everyone, be part of this kind of communities that are working in artificial intelligence. Try to be in a research team, learn with projects, and of course, share that experience, use AI tools as well. And this is another important thing. I have Tecla, that is technology for Latin America. And the main idea is that everything is moving so fast. We summarize some of the innovation that you can find in the industry right now, and we send you a daily message where you can just like read some of the new algorithms that are created. And this is in Spanish, but paper with code is in English. Their newsletter, very good. Yeah. Thank you so much for the time. I just tried to show you some of the things that I believe from my perspective as a young developer. And the question here is how we can take action to reduce barriers, and how we can contribute to make this technology accessible to everybody. I am open to questions. Again, thank you so much for the time. And I think it was 30 minutes, more or less, that I was expecting.
You did great, right? Adonai, thank you so much for your presentation. I know that we have some folks who will ask some questions. Let me start with people who posted things into our chat. Richard Boyd, you're here, join us. I know that you put into the chat that you spent some time in Colombia. So
yeah,
we look forward to your thoughts about the presentation and your explorations in this space.
No, I definitely resonated to much of what you were talking about. The idea of democratizing a lot of the components of AI, and particularly machine learning, is something that we absolutely need. The critical thing I was talking about in 2018 was our lack of data scientists, and by that I mean not just people who are good at statistical analysis, but people who are also programmers. So those were the difficult people to find back then, and the ones who were commanding $300,000 to $500,000 salaries on the West Coast. Thankfully, I feel like we've broken through that a bit, so we're starting to produce more of those kinds of people we need. And the other thing I talked about back then, together with Kevin Clark and my friend Mark Krinsky and others, is this need beyond the data scientists to engage the human behavioral scientists with this technology, so that we think through, like you said, building systems that are aligned with our cultural values. And I've been in a bunch of conversations this weekend with some folks who were continuing to think about that, because there's no doubt in my mind that we can build systems that are aligned with, human values. The question then becomes whose values? So it's not really a form of a question, but I'm resonating a lot. I've taken a lot of notes about what you described there, and thank you for all the great work you're doing. I think we're still, I'm part of a conference called ITSEC, and they were just asking me this weekend for the next big thing. And I'm like, what do you mean? You mean this week or this month? And they're like, no, for our conference in December. And I'm like, my God, I don't know how to predict what the next big thing is going to be in December, because it is accelerating. Like Ray Kurzweil has predicted, everything is accelerating. These technologies build upon themselves, and we're having to come to terms with it. And policy, as always, is trailing the technology by at least, well, we used to say 10 years, and it can't afford to trail by 10 years anymore.
100%.
So
Thanks.
I do like, some of those tools that you mentioned, Data Robot. I know we've used that previously, but the ability to put training sets into something that can begin to produce some kind of output that hopefully is traceable and transparent to inquiry. I think that's the key issue.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for those comments and for joining our discussion this morning. Ben Konsinski, you have a question for us.
Yeah, first, I wanted to have you applaud your parents for having the foresight to put AI at the end of your first name, and how prescient they were and in advance in making that accommodation for you years ahead of time, years ahead of need. So I certainly applaud that. I wanted to note that your comments interesting on setting guidelines and how we set up guidelines and guardrails, and at the same time we see the constitutional AI form emergent with with Claude, for example, and others, that we need to be careful that we don't rely too much on human models for those guidelines, because we're fostering generative creativity. And so we have what I would call a natural tension between our interest as humans to set humanesque guidelines and barriers, and at the same time, we don't want to stifle the creative opportunity of the generative form. And yet at the same time, we don't want the generative form to go wacky like we've seen with some of the others. I just thought I'd mention that, see if you have any comments on that.
Yes, no, I am agree. I am 100% agree. But the harder thing here is that there are some, let's say, guidelines right now. And the thing is that everything is new. Like, I think nobody has the correct answer for that, and nobody has the final, let's say, guidelines. But the thing here is that if we have this kind of conversations, if we have this kind of talks, we can start to create like a first version and iterate in this version and try to find the best way, like the balanced way between all of this stuff, all of these points of view. And yeah, I think there are some guidelines right now that we can use like a base, but as you say, some of them start to have like, it's hard to create a full response when there is something that is new, that is creating right now. It's a challenge, and we have to work on that.
Yeah, constitutions can change. And
yeah.
And one last point, and turn it over, is the notion of bias. And we detect bias after it exists. I'm wondering if there are ways that we can have early warning systems that suggest when a knowledge form is emerging bias. And so an emerging bias detection might be an interesting prospect to govern and manage knowledge sources, rather than waiting till after we detect it as a problem.
Yes, I am agree. There are some ways to reduce bias. And because there are oversampling, undersampling, when you are creating, for example, a neural networks, you can use some layers to reduce this bias. But at the end, if we create a tool that can use this data to see if maybe there is some patterns and maybe create some first model just showing the bias, that would be amazing. And I think the government can use this a lot. But like I said before, we can work to reduce the bias with some code, but if we create a tool that actually don't use the code, because the problem here is that, and I know that we are working on that, but the model doesn't have all the context. They don't know about the historical things, that maybe there are more information, but you just send an historical part of the information. And the hard thing here is how we can share all the information to the model and try to create a more, let's say more, with less bias. This is one project that we can work together, like we can create this kind of algorithms. But yeah, it's something that I believe that there are not algorithms to detect bias without knowing the data, but you can reduce the bias.
Excellent. In chat, we had some contributions from Frank Odas. Frank, join us. I don't know if he's there. There you are.
Yeah, I'm here. What a fascinating guy. I'm really impressed. I deal with low-end people, native tribes, and what you commented, it's all moving so fast. Why don't we just forget digital literacy and leapfrog to the future and start them with learning how they can train their own AI agent and develop simple AI mentors where a native can say, I want to learn about cultural preservation, and links come back at the appropriate level for that person. I have come across two amazing 20-minute videos that are super concise, that speak very quickly and rattle off very specific tools of the type Mark inquired about, how to create your own digital twin and use it purposefully in education. I have hundreds of articles that I don't think anybody will read because people don't read anymore, that could be added into a database. And then my digital twin could read any of those articles and or answer questions based on my personal knowledge base. How that might be misused is perhaps a question, but watching these 20-minute videos, it basically says $60 million was spent creating a 2 gig software program that anyone can run on a PC as an example of the power and expense that can go into tools for regular individuals. And I've done a lot of online courses over the past 30 years as the technology keeps changing, with the goal being how to motivate and inspire educators to educate and motivate their students. And what I'm seeing is some of these tools are simple enough that they could give people a start with how to understand the potential for personal AI. So I love what you're doing. I will close with saying in 1986, I was running ELIZA on an Apple IIe with which is about as simple an AI program as was available for regular computers at the time. And so, you know, the idea of your expertise leapfrogging what is now considered to be digital literacy, I think has huge potential because the future has arrived. It just hasn't been evenly distributed. So thanks for your time. I'd love to get an email address to keep in touch.
Yeah, thanks for the William Gibson reference there right at the end, Frank. And Mark Prensky, you had some thoughts for us. Please join us. You're on mute, sir.
Thank you so much. This was a great inspiration. I think that two things. One, I am much more interested in not so much extending what we do, because we have sensors that see a particular part of the electromagnetic spectrum, and now we can extend them to see the whole electromagnetic spectrum, et cetera. But that's just an extension. I'm very interested in new things that we really had no ability to do before, and now we can do them. So that's number one. And the second one is this idea of guidelines. It's crazy because we have this terrible bias towards good humans. And maybe it's a good bias towards being good humans, what we call good non-destructive humans. And so everything that we're doing is, in a sense, every guideline that we put up is introducing that bias. And evolution never worked with biases. Evolution said, whatever thrives is good. We'll just take it. And I saw an article the other day about we won't have any more cloning, using CRISPR to do babies because that'll lead to eugenics. Well, I said, too bad, shit. We need babies who are different. We need humans who are different. We need to move to, and we already are different. And I'll just add one more thing that occurred to me as you were saying this. And as Frank was talking, people are already different on so many levels. And if you don't think the ordinary people are different, somebody once said, if you look at TV, the intensity of the script, the number of words they put in a normal TV script today is much huger than it used to be 50 years ago. In other words, people really are, across the board, more sophisticated and more advanced in this hypothesis. So we're dealing not just with new stuff, but with new people. And that's a really important thing to help understand, I think.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate those thoughts and comments. Coco, your camera's moving. I don't know whether you can hear me. I don't think you can hear me. We'll get back to you in a second. Richard Boyd, you had additional comments.
Yeah, I mean, there's one concept that we continue to struggle with a bit. And again, I first started working with machine learning, as many of you know, back in 2009, 2010. And back then it did feel like everything was sort of manageable and traceable. We're now dealing with systems, particularly some of the things we've been building in the trying to model human behavior, especially world leader human behavior. And I won't go into too much detail about that, but imagine trying to think about, like, why did that guy invade that country, and why is he taking the actions that he's taking? And can it be explained from his previous actions? And the answer is no. But as we try to trace through the system itself, like, we built machine learning systems that can harvest all that data and then come to a series of conclusions at the end and make its statements, its predictive statements. But when you try to sort back through all the steps that it took, it becomes impossible. The number of steps and functions that are in that are so large, we can't actually review them physically. And we don't have really good, so I guess we think of it as, how do I debug, a machine learning system? And right now I'm not aware of any tools, and I'm interested to know if you are, or if any of you are hearing about anything like that we can use to debug the traceability and transparency of inquiry for these kinds of systems. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's what we're trying to figure out.
So our guest, Adonai, what do you think there? Can you see any tools out there?
I know a person that are working on that. Like, have to debug how this is a black box. Sometimes this is a black box, and sometimes
Even
no,
it's
this is
black
really-
box when we build our own systems. That's what's it's not blowing my mind, but it's difficult to get your arms around. Right? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I can share his research. He did his PhD trying to how we can like open this black box and understand the variables that are in there, and trying to find like why that machine is taking that decisions. I have been not working on that, but I think I can share his research. and can be like a way to do it. But I don't know any specific tool to the book. I can make the search and I can share with you, Richard, if it's okay. I can connect with you and we can
Please, yeah,
we can talk about that.
Very good.
it's a problem.
Yeah.
Excellent. Coco, can you hear us now? You put some comments in. We'd welcome you joining our conversation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kevin. Thank you, everybody. I think you can hear me.
We can.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm coming just right behind Mr. Richard, saying that he needs some artificial intelligence that can explain its function in terms of human can understand it. So I take just a case of you using AI in the command of enterprise resource planning. I'm taking just the case of a company and organizations working and using AI as a tools which can guide people to use the same thing. So I'm working on the ERP projects, which have to be proposal to be used all over Africa for health management. And that health management, so I'm facing to different culture of people and different language of people. Especially in Africa, we have more than 1,000 languages, different languages. But I'm fighting with open sources so that I can configure and all parameters of the health ERP in different languages, but I must allow the user, the patient, for example, from Congo, who move to a hospital in Egypt, so that Egyptian can understand really his problem of health. And at that place, the artificial intelligence have a key role to play much to make understanding people of different culture, to put all of them together in one idea. So in that case, what I'm planning I'm doing some exercise to use ChatGPT in including chatbots to try to communicate together how they can help a user of the system. And in the case of a company, large organizations, so people can be teaching themselves using artificial intelligence. That's what I'm saying in the case of Brother Richard case. That's what I think. Thank you.
Okay. So Ben, you had a thought for Coco?
Yeah, I was just reflecting as he's describing it on the historic experience in India with Aadhaar project, and combine that with a somewhat standardization on the EMR or HMR, the medical record, that you're dealing with. That if I have some canonical form of a health record, then these tools are legion in helping me take any language as a discourse summary. But the Aadhaar project in India was a key was the authentication and identification of the individual. And the problem was they relied around banking. And you have a large non-bank population in India, and you do in Africa as well, too. So there has to be other forms of authentication and identification as a part of that, too. So you need to bring several standards together, but it's certainly very laudable.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us, Coco. That's a great set of goals that you're pursuing. Schneider, do you have some thoughts based on what you heard Adonai say today? By the way, Adonai, I think you should reconsider the pronunciation of your name as Adon AI, like they were saying before. You really should consider that.
Yeah. Kevin, just to clarify, you mean it more in a way of closing remarks or how?
Well, what we normally do is we'll say thank you, and then if anyone wants to stay for overtime, we can do that. But we will close out the main session in just a moment. But I would welcome your thoughts about what your guest speaker said today.
Cool, great. Yeah, no, I think that's great, and I think that bringing let's say Young's contribution on or your perspective on this topic that many of you know and many of you know in depth and have a lot of detail about it, right? For decades or for many years, it is very important because it is nourishing or nurturing in a very positive way, like both perspectives, even from let's say younger audiences, but also for let's say younger audiences to get your insight, to get your inputs, to get like your ideas and reflections about it, but also for you to understand what's the standpoint of, let's say, other generations, right? And I think that one of the main things that I just get from Adonai conversation is the importance of how in this area, I mean, in every area, but how in here, it is very important to collaborate and to be part of a community. It's not just what you develop by your own, but actually how what you develop gets feedback. And based on that feedback and based on that, let's say, a collaboration, you create something bigger and something that actually can work for everybody and not just for what you think is correct, right? So what are you saying? Do you still see yourself as a young person? I do. What do you mean?
That was for you and for Adonai as well, because we're talking about young people, and then we see these quick generational jumps from and then to him, he's in his 20s, late 20s, and now we're talking about I'm very interested in kids who are 3 to 16 or something like that, and who's there, and can we get any of them on this call, which would be phenomenal.
We should.
Yeah,
we should.
Most people have this epiphany that when they go to the restaurant and they start calling you sir or madam, right? That you've crossed over from being, the young person to, elsewhere. But yeah, that's great. We're going to just say thank you at this point for being with us, Adonai, and for being our guest on this moment with the PCI community. For those of you who want to stay with us, we'll do a little bit of overtime, but this will conclude the recorded part of our time together. Schneider, thank you so much for bringing him to both our attention and to this call. Really great.
Right.
So with that said,